The rain had just stopped when the engines roared to life, 4 bikes, chrome gleaming under the streetlights, cutting through the silence of the small town. People whispered whenever they saw them, the road wolves. To outsiders, they were troublemakers. But the truth was far more human. They protected the weak, stood up for justice, and carried the weight of past mistakes they were determined to correct. Tonight, however, their ride wasn't just another patrol. Tonight, something unforgivable had happened. Earlier that afternoon, 12-year-old Sammy had run into the local cafe, trembling, bruises on his arms and fear in his eyes. Behind him limped his older sister, Zara, holding her wrist in pain. They tried to hide what had happened until one of the bikers, Ayan, knelt beside them and gently asked what was wrong. That's when Zara burst into tears. The corrupted old men, Rauf and Tabir, landowners who had controlled the neighborhood for decades, had tried to forcefully take the siblings' small family shop. Their father had recently passed away, and the men believed they could scare the children into silence. When the kids refused to sign the papers, the old men resorted to threats and violence. Hearing this, the cafe fell silent. Everyone knew Rauf and Tabir. Everyone feared them. But not the road wolves. Ayan stood up, jaw tight, eyes burning. No more, he said. And the decision was made. The bikers rode out as the sky darkened, their engines echoing like an approaching storm. They weren't heading toward trouble. They were heading toward justice. The old men were hosting a gathering in their mansion outside town, a celebration of their power, their wealth, their decades of manipulation. The bikers arrived at the gate just as loud laughter echoed from inside. The guards stepped forward, but they stepped back just as quickly. One look at Ayan and the others was enough. The bikers weren't carrying weapons, they didn't need any. Their determination was sharper than steel. Inside, the old men snickered when they saw them. What brings the stray dogs here? Rauf mocked, his voice dripping with arrogance. The guests laughed nervously, no one dared challenge him. Ayan didn't flinch. You put your hands on children, he said. You threatened a girl half your age. Today, you answer for that. Tabir scoffed loudly. You think you can scare us? We built this town. People kiss our feet. Ayan stepped closer, eyes locked on Tabir. Not today. The bikers didn't touch them at first. They simply exposed everything, right in front of the guests. Ayan narrated the truth while Samir pulled out Zara's torn bracelet, which had broken during the struggle. They showed the bruises, the threats, the forged papers the men had tried to force them to sign. Every guest watched in shock as the old men paled. Years of hidden cruelty had finally surfaced. But exposing them wasn't enough. Not for what they had done. The bikers took the old men outside. The entire crowd followed, trembling, curious, afraid. Under the night sky, Ayan turned on the bright headlights of the bikes. Their engines revved, not aggressively, but warningly. Each roar crashed through the air like thunder. Rauf and Tabir shook, suddenly realizing the power they thought they had meant nothing outside their mansion walls. The road wolves didn't beat them. They didn't hurt them. They forced them to face the same helplessness they had caused others for years. Zara and Sammy were brought forward. The old men were ordered to apologize, not the fake kind they gave in court, not the arrogant lies they hid behind. A real apology. One that came from fear, guilt, and shame. Rauf's voice cracked, trembling, as he whispered apologies to the children he had tried to destroy. Tabir's legs gave way as he knelt on the ground, sobbing not from pain but from humiliation. But the bikers weren't done. They made the men sign a new document, one transferring the shop entirely to Zara and Sammy, with a protection clause preventing anyone from taking it again. The entire crowd watched, recording everything. This time, the old men had no power to refuse. Once the papers were signed, Ayan walked up and said quietly, "Your reign ends tonight. From now on, this town protects its own." The lesson wasn't taught through violence but through truth, exposure, and accountability. The old men were left trembling, humiliated, and powerless as the road wolves escorted the kids home. The town finally saw who the real monsters were, and who its true protectors had always been. The next morning, something unexpected happened. People began showing up at Zara and Sammy's shop, not out of pity, but out of support. They bought items, offered help, and apologized for staying silent for so long. The kids smiled for the first time in months, feeling safe, seen, and supported. And the road wolves. They watched from afar, engines quiet, hearts finally at peace. The town changed after that night. Ralph and Tabir became symbols, not of power, but of consequences. And whenever someone whispered their names, they followed it with the same sentence: they learned their lesson, thanks to the bikers. But the strongest message came from Ayan himself, who visited the shop one last time and told the siblings, bravery isn't about fighting. It's about standing up for what's right, even when you stand alone. Tonight, you weren't alone. And you never will be. The engines roared one final time as the bikers rode off into the horizon, leaving behind a town that finally understood the value of justice, courage, and unity. And the children, holding their father's framed photo, whispered softly, "We made you proud."